You. Why I am.
Okay, is this Ahmed?
Is.
It is, okay. So you're speaking from Mr. Nkando's.
Sorry, the system is a bit really bad. Okay, yes, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Thank you.
We have, except of the panelists and the interpreters, we have 45 participants online. You can start when you are ready, or if you want to wait for other few minutes, I can also wait with you, no problem.
So for a few more minutes. Numbers are increasing, this is good. Colleagues, whilst we are waiting to start, please have interpretation service.
Yes, we have, Mr.
So you
Ahmed.
could click on interpretation. Yes. I'm just trying to let interpretation services. You can click on English or French.
Okay, I think it's now 12:07, so I think it's a good time to start. Good afternoon, everybody, and really happy that we could all come together today as part of what we call a learning webinar session. We're very happy because we have findings from the IDEV Water Evaluations, Feed Africa, as well as the water team here, the WASH operations here. So in 2 minutes, Madam Wambui, the acting vice president, will be coming to join us. But in the meantime, we'd really like to thank all the colleagues for making time today because it's so important. I think with regards to today's session, we're going to try to end it by 1:30, latest by 2 o'clock. So if everybody can kind of pace themselves, and it should be open and extremely interactive. I think one of the ideas to have this was really to discuss the findings of the evaluation, and then also to see how we can integrate that into operations and how to bring that forward. So with that, I'm going to ask from the BDEV team if there's somebody who would like to say a couple of words before we start. From the BDEV team, please, if there's somebody who would like to say a couple of words just to tee up the conversation, and then we will go to Wambui and then have the presentations and then open up the floor for lots of questions and answers. Ahmed Khan has said it already, but there is translation available. As you all probably know by now, you just go to the bottom of the screen and you can click where you have the globe to choose your language. And then two, if there are questions or comments, Sorry, Ahmed? Oh, okay, so if there's also questions and comments, please feel free to put questions and comments into the chat box. We will try to pick up those comments into the conversation, and then of course we'll be asking for your questions and comments during the Q&A. So with that, I'm going to go back to the BDEV team to see if there's anybody who would like to say a couple of things before we start with the main structure of the conversation.
Sure, Atsuko, I can do that.
Okay, super, Karen. You're gonna help us by speaking a little bit louder. Welcome, Karen. For some reason, your voice is not very audible. Thank you.
Okay, so I will speak a bit louder and hope that you can hear me. So indeed, we have conducted a number of evaluations, both on the agriculture side and on the water side. We started, I think, 2-3 years ago with the agricultural value chains evaluation. Then we've done an evaluation of the water sector, including rural water and sanitation, urban water and sanitation, and agricultural water management. We did an evaluation of the African Water Facility, and we are just finishing an impact evaluation of irrigation development in Malawi. And so we have quite a wealth of knowledge from these various evaluations in the area of water and agriculture that we would like to share with you. Of course, in these days of COVID-19, both water and water for agriculture are extremely important for health, for food, for nutrition. And so we think it is an apt time to share this knowledge with you. So this session is the first in a series. And we look forward to presenting to you, sharing with you, hearing from you, hearing also from task managers, colleagues in the field, so that we can continue the knowledge exchange. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. That's very, very important for us to start our conversations. I saw that Andrew Mude had his hand up. Is this a question or would you like to intervene, please?
I think he was just testing, Madam Atsuko.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joseph. Okay, you know, I know that Wambui is still stuck in SMCC. When she comes, she can participate and also, of course, take the floor. In the meantime, I don't want to slow down the conversation, so let us move towards the first speaker, please. So on the agenda, the first speaker, I'm going to ask Ahmed who the first speaker would be.
That would be.
Is it Joseph or is it WAEL?
Yes.
I think it's Joseph.
Joseph
it's
first.
me.
So,
okay, WAEL. Okay.
And Girma, the first two speakers from side, and then we'll get Osward, US side, and then we get to AHAI and AHFR.
Okay, so the first speaker, sorry, we couldn't hear you, Ahmed, is?
First speaker is Joseph.
Joseph, okay, Joseph, over to you, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to make my presentation. Let me share. Okay.
Joseph,
I'm trying to share my presentation.
With your presentation? Yeah.
Are you getting the right one? Is it okay?
No,
My
you need to switch.
I need to switch again. Okay.
Yes.
Is it okay now?
Yes, it's okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you, colleague. I will make this presentation, and my colleague Girma, who is our agricultural value chain champion, will intervene during the Q&A session. As you will see, the title here is Beyond Infrastructure Development Towards Service Delivery and Behavioral Change. So if you ask me to summarize the evaluation or to present the evaluation in 5 seconds, this is what I will tell you. Because it summarizes the finding from our water sector evaluation, being in mind that water sector evaluation here include WASH and agricultural water management. And this statement get more sense now with the COVID-19 outbreak. And I will just present lessons from all evaluation we have done in 3 parts. I will present first lesson related to improving the quality of design. Secondly, I will present a lesson on fostering development impact. And thirdly, I will present a group of lesson I call Moderator because I didn't find a title. So I have just 3 slides. I have just 3 slides. And in terms of lesson, the first lesson we need to learn is related to the lack of a clear theory of change for water strategic document and intervention. This is critical because we used to focus on log frame, but log frame is just a summary of one process. The process is the one leading to design the theory of change. And if you need to build a theory of change, you need to conduct a context analysis, through stakeholder analysis and problem analysis using the problem tree. And you need also to develop result chain and a logic model. But usually we go straight on a logic frame without taking care of this important process. So the first lesson we need to learn from all our evaluation is we need to have a clear theory of change for all intervention, including project and strategic document. The second lesson related to the participant approach. As you may know, in our project and program, we used to say that we are doing things in a participatory manner. But in practice, it's important to know that an effective participation process during the project design is critical. First, for ownership, and second, to better identify the need of a beneficiary and have a best selection of appropriate technology. But it's important also to know that there is a different level of participation. And empowering program beneficiary is the more powerful participation approach, while meeting, consultation, focus group are the less powerful one. So we don't need just to say we are doing participation, we are using participation approach, but we need also to make sure that we are having an appropriate participation approach. The third lesson is related to feasibility study and which link to the technology. And as you know, project design requires a sound preparatory phase, which adequate and update feasibility study for success subsequent implementation. And what we have seen sometimes is that project design are not based on update feasibility study. And here I will make an important link with African Water Facility. The water sector has an advantage of having a very good facility, which has not, I can say, better use in terms of project preparation. So putting a clear link with African Water Facility and the water sector portfolio will be critical. So all project design will be based on sound feasibility study. Also, we have found that sometimes design are mainly driven by selected technology. It's good, but we need to take care that if we are selecting a specific technology, we have adequate availability of spare part and relevant expertise for operation and management. And finally, for the last one in terms of improving quality of design is linked to the first one, because if you have a very clear theory of change, you will be identifying the best risk for your intervention. So risk assessment sometimes is insufficient in our project. And also, when you have identified your risk, you should know that that risk should be monitored. It's not just putting a rate in a log frame and reviewing, I don't know if at the end of a project, but it should be like you are monitoring your output, you are monitoring your outcome, you should also monitoring all your risk and your assumption during the project cycle. As you know, nothing stay the same forward. In terms of fostering development impact, we well know the issue of, or the term of holistic, integrated value chain approach. So it's a well-known terminology, but in practice, sometimes we are not using it appropriately. And holistic or integrated value chain may be related to one sector. For example, wash. The term wash is not a sexy word, but the term wash means water, sanitation, and hygiene. So it's not because we want just to put it, but sometimes we focus only on water and forget sanitation or hygiene. And now within the COVID-19 crisis, we see how important is sanitation and hygiene now. So the holistic or integrated approach can be also applied across the sector. And here, now the term one bank approach should be applied in all our intervention if we want to achieve better results. Secondly, in terms of fostering development impact, mainly for the wash sector, the performance of utility is very, very important. Because in the sector, we used to do what we call equalization mechanism. And this equalization mechanism is mainly based on the performance of our utility. In some country, the bill for the sanitation is paid in the bill of water. So if we have a very good utility, very performing utility, it will be very important to achieve our result. And it's also linked to cost recovery, because now water is not like just a God given. It's becoming very important and critical because of this climate change, etc., etc. So valuing water, pricing water become very, very important. And finally, water service delivery. This is where we need to do more, because as I say, having infrastructure is very good. We are doing we are making a good progress. We are doing a lot of things in terms of infrastructure. But the question, why infrastructure? Because we want to give something, we want to deliver something. So we need to focus on water service delivery. For instance, in rural areas.
I'm so sorry, Joseph. I just want you to be cognizant of time because we also have to have Girma do presentation. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't indicate that we have just one presentation for IDEV. We have just one presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Girma, this is why I'm trying to explain, because I know that I have 15 minutes myself. So Girma will interview during the Q&A session. We include all findings from Girma and myself. Is it okay? So water service delivery is critical. And as you know, in a rural area, let's say rural water and sanitation, including agriculture water management, most of facility has managed by the user association, but they are not sometimes able to provide the required service. So we need to focus more on water service delivery. And it's linked also to the cost recovery, to the utility performance, because if the utility doesn't have a sufficient financial, it will be not sufficient for them to deliver it. And the picture is a very good picture, because the guy was saying, we already have a tap water. The lady say, oh yes, we have a tap, but we have a tap, but we don't have tap water. I'm obliged to go to look water everywhere, because having infrastructure is good, but it should provide the service needed. And finally, the last slide is related to small-scale irrigation. We used to build market in this kind of project, but we should know that building market infrastructure is necessary, but not a sufficient condition to create market. So here, we need to strengthen agriculture valuation approach. This is the area where Girma will provide more information. And we also need to know that irrigation farming and project does necessarily lead to child nutrition. I think during the preparation of impact evaluation, we was exciting to, at the first time, to focus on nutrition. We say, oh, we used to find some irrigation impact evaluation, but it doesn't focus on nutrition. But we realize that the link is not also clear. And here also the issue of theory of change is very important. And more broader knowledge management. Knowledge management is critical, because if we want to support the regional member country reform, and increase our policy dialogue, we need to have to develop or promote knowledge in the water sector. It's very, very critical. And lastly, what we all know, result monitoring and evaluation. We all know, but mainly we are not doing what we should do in this area. I will stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joseph, and indirectly, thank you so much, Girma. I really appreciate, and I think everybody here appreciates the knowledge and the lessons and the recommendations from the evaluation. We'll move straight to the second presentation, which will be Oswald Chanda, to see how we can take those recommendations and then action them into water and sanitation sector strategies and operations. So we'll take questions and answers at the end. I saw that Archie has sent in a question. Joseph or Girma, I would ask you to answer in the Q&A, and we'll also take it up later during the Q&A. Thank you. Over to you, Chanda-san.
Thank you very much, Atsuko, and good afternoon, colleagues. Joseph, that's not my presentation.
This is mine.
So I did not receive yours. Okay, sorry.
No, Maimuna did send you something. You don't? You don't have a copy?
No.
Actually, if you do not have a copy, Dorsaf, I think Chanda-san, you can put your own screen up. You are co-host, so you have
yes, I
right.
can. Yeah. I just need to quickly switch to my laptop because I had it on my iPad. Okay, just give me some 2 minutes. I'll be done.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Okay, maybe while we're waiting, can we take the question that Archie has given to you, Joseph and Girma? Why does the second bullet under the first lesson refer to the energy sector? Is that?
It was just a mistake. We are doing
okay.
to near, but yeah, it's water. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I hope we haven't lost Chanda-san. Okay, in the meantime, Maimuna. Maybe,
yes, please.
I'm just wondering, do you have the presentation that Chanda is talking about? No.
I do, I guess, and unless you made changes.
Okay, so we're waiting for Chanda-san to come up, but you're also co-host, so you could actually put your screen up.
Okay.
Mr. Chanda is online, so
I can share my screen.
Okay, Chanda, you're back online. Maimuna can also put up her screen if that is helpful to you. Sorry. Chanda?
Your macro is off.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I have got it here. Now I just need to upload it. Okay. Good. Okay, now I begin to share. I begin to share this.
Okay, we see it coming up. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. It's loading.
Please go ahead. We see it on the screen.
See it on the screen. Okay. Thank you very much. Joseph, thank you very much for giving me a good background to what I'm going to talk about. Basically, we now going to talk to the integrating of these lessons. IDEV has come up with identification of the lessons that have been learned, areas that need to be improved. And what we have done is sit down with them and with ourselves and the different stakeholders, basically to look at, okay, how can we action the evaluation recommendations, and we have come up with an action plan, and we are already actually implementing some of these actions. So I'll quickly run through that and just share with you. Let me put it on PowerPoint. Okay, good. There we go. So it's basically, my focus will be on operationalizing these lessons, a number of which Joseph already talked about. And the issues that were identified, range from appropriate technology, sanitation, water quality, service delivery, and so on and so forth. We can see in the word cloud there. These are some of the major issues that did come about. Now, what is the importance? What is the opportunity for learning for the water sector from this IDEV evaluation, focusing on these major issues that have been identified? So we see that it's important indeed for us to address these sector issues and to enhance efficiency and effectiveness in our operations, so that Joseph doesn't talk of taps without water. Okay, now, how do we go about doing this? We say the primary entry point is integrating these lessons in our business operations. We all are very familiar with identification, preparation, appraisal, negotiation, implementation, down to project completion and evaluation. In addition to this, there is also the important elements that we need to ensure that these lessons, these issues are enshrined. And this is in our analytical work, the economic sector work that we undertake, in the preparation of the country and regional strategy papers, in the dialogue that we engage with the governments. Now, there are several opportunities indeed at which we can do that. Besides the project cycle, ensuring that at each point, at identification, preparation, and appraisal, we are building in these lessons. We are ensuring that it's not just lip service, there is proper stakeholder consultation. The strategy that we are using for reaching out to the consumers is something that is going to result in improved quality of life of the people. I think it's very evident, as was indicated with the COVID-19. So we say the other opportunities that we have for learning for the water sector team is that now, when I talk about the water sector team, I'm talking in generality. We include the sanitation people, we include the agriculture water people, we include the hydro water, the hydro energy water people. So everyone who is in this water ecosystem is included. So the learning opportunities and features for the water sector staff is looking at, one, in the development or review of knowledge products. We are generating quite a number of knowledge products, and through consultation, through the research process that we go through, there is a lot of uptake of knowledge and information, but also sharing out of this information. During at the beginning of the COVID-19, we did prepare a guideline with a results framework for the task managers that has been used quite extensively, not just within the bank, but also with other partners who have welcomed that piece, because we went granular in looking at where are the interventions going to be necessary in emergency, in the medium term, and also looking at building resilience. The training sessions, we have that opportunity. There could be thematic training or seminars, brand bags like this one we are having here. It's also a source of learning for the staff. We also have conferences and workshops. This could be regional, this could be global. The water sector is quite well positioned, and every year we participate in 2-3 regional and global conferences where we have opportunity to share knowledge. We have opportunity to pick some of the new developments within the water sector. And so it is an opportunity to pick up some of these things. But also IDEV, IDEV has generated this report. Often they target sometimes projects or a cluster, a sector evaluation like they did in this particular case. That is a source of learning. There are a lot of important pieces of information that we can pick from the IDEV reports. And of course, the ongoing improvements within the bank, I will speak to some of these as we go on. So There are various opportunities that exist.
In Africa, most of the countries, most of the population in our countries rely on agriculture for income. So the opportunity is there, the need is very dire. So the new trends are mainly three that we are considering in our future operations. First, economy of scale. Second, consumer target instead of tonnage. And then public-private partnership. Economy of scale. Why we are thinking of economy of scale? Because individual work has proved to be unproductive, unbenefiting the beneficiaries. But when you have economy of scale, we can have easy access to finance. When you have a larger farm, then financiers will have the trust to put money into your business. Large scale farms afford technology, afford tractors, afford modern irrigation systems, afford use of all the new technologies. I don't want to go through all of that. And then there is also flexibility of options. When I have a large scale farm, I can have different crops. I can have two types of things. You know, I can afford, you know, options are endless. And then finally, power of negotiations. When I have large scale production, I can easily negotiate surface, I can negotiate market, I can negotiate several things. So from this, when we used to deal with farmers who having half a hectare or 1 hectare each, and then farmers who augmented their small farm together in a bigger scale farm, then this, I can assure you, it was exactly like this. Now, the second one is consumer target versus tonnage. Originally, we wanted just to increase the production, but we ended up with this. We have good production, but many farmers had to leave this in the farm and then have a lot of post-harvest losses, a lot of loss. Then we had to start targeting local markets. We started to open small markets here and there, which helped some. But then we needed to go for international markets because this is where we get money, hard currency, and then good benefit for farmers. Then we needed to go for agro-processing. This is the value chain, because here there's no shelf. It routines in the farm. Here we have shelf life because of refrigeration and so on. But this one, very long shelf life. Our target is ambitious. We want African countries to go for branding and then goes worldwide with African brands of choice. So this is our new trend now. The last one is public-private partnership. Agriculture is a culture. So when you get a small farmer, a small piece of land and tell him, okay, go ahead. Here is the irrigation system. Here is the farm. It's land level, go ahead. He doesn't know how to operate that. Agriculture is a profession, is a very sophisticated profession, even more sophisticated than medicine and engineering, I can assure you. I'm an ex-farmer and I can tell you it is very, very difficult. It was more difficult for me than learning engineering and practicing engineering. So when we have the private sector partnering with our beneficiaries and with our government, then we get this culture into space. Professionalism, it has to be there. Cost sharing, because when you get the private sector into the equation, they put money wisely. They guide us on the right way of spending money because they know the business. They are also the operation and maintenance masters. We get a good deal. These are the main trends we are looking for when we looking for Africa to improve its agriculture sector, because we have a very ambitious target ahead of us in the next 5 years, which is Africa Feed Africa by 2025. And I believe we can achieve this. I'm a big believer in that. So our strategic response,
okay.
This is very important. And this is our strategy. So now we have better vision, we are more focused, we have larger development ahead of us, more hands with the private sector and other partners, less obstacle, and then we have faster sustainable achievement. These are operations that we completed. In Eswatini, we had the Komati and Lucid projects who brought farmers into the economic size where farmer companies has been formed and they access commercial banks for financing, and they are very successful. Products are all straight to processing and to world market. We had also Pandamatinga with commercial farmers on board, farms of the size of 500 hectares and above, and then small farmers are also benefiting from this. Ongoing, we have Lucid 2, the second phase of Lucid in Eswatini, and then we have the Cherry Valley Transformation Project, where again, in a country where farmers used to have 0.25 hectares to farms of 500 hectares irrigated by central pivot and main with market access and financing access. Target in the pipeline, we have Eswatini, Mkondo, and Wavuma 3-phase program, very huge program, including 30,000 hectares of development and huge agro-processing park, where a number of industrial crops will be considered. Same with Botswana, Zambezi integrated agro-processing agro-commercial development project, phase 1 and phase 2. Also, we are talking about 30,000 hectares and an industrial park. And then we have ahead of us the Cherry Valley 2 and the Cherry Valley 3, which include also the industrial park. Now let's go back to this video. This is the African farmer. You see, donors came, we put a lot of money, we put a lot of effort, but the farmer was hanging there helpless because he's not achieving anything. Even our responses were wrong. We are removing the wrong packs. You know, these packs is not the one causing the problem. The ones causing the problem are the ones here. It took us time until we managed it and helped the farmer to move. Now we have a number of very successful operations that's really helping the farmer to be on his foot, working, making money. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's extremely helpful. I just wanted to mention a question that has come up from Bush. I see in the chat box. Why are we not seeing more of this multi-purpose infrastructure in public investment projects funded by the bank? I think this is a very good question and something we can think about, WAEL. With that, I'd like to go to the next presenter, MAMADOU Khan. MAMADOU, do you have a presentation?
Oui.
Can you share your screen, please?
D'accord.
Okay. So, yes.
Vous avez désactivé le partage d'écran.
Okay, let me.
Monsieur Khan, réessayez.
Okay. Can you do it? Or shall I share mine? I have your presentation.
Can I ask her answer the question? Because
sure, while we're waiting, Wael, that would be excellent. Please do.
Okay. We actually do. We do multi-purpose infrastructure. In Komati, we didn't only provide the irrigation and agriculture development. We provided water supply and sanitation facilities for the community of Komati. We did the same with Lucid. Water supply and sanitation facilities in houses and water supply to everywhere. And then we actually included also home gardens for vegetables, for beneficiaries. We do this. We introduce livestock and fisheries when the system needs that. So we are open in our operations, and we believe that every agriculture project has to have water supply component. We do this whenever we did this in Mozambique, in the Sherry Valley, in Basho Limpopo project. We provided support to the community in terms of water supply. We did in Pandamatenga also provide borehole water supply to the community. Finally, we also looking for more modern techniques like hydroponic, aquaponic, and which produce fish with agriculture production. So this is in the agenda. Yes.
Thank you very, very much. Thanks a lot, WAEL. So I think that's a good segue to go to Mamadou's presentation on special agro-industrial processing zones. Mamadou, over to you.
C'est bon, est-ce que vous voyez la présentation à l'écran?
Oui, oui, ça marche.
Ok, la traduction, ça va? Tu peux y aller? Ok, merci à tous. J'ai été associé avec plaisir à la revue de cette étude, de cette évaluation de l'IDEV. Je les remercie, et puis les collègues également. Ce qu'il faut dire, c'est en termes de perspective par rapport à ce qui a été constaté lors de cette étude, confirme un peu ce qu'on savait. Ce qu'on savait, c'est que déjà, pour l'essentiel, l'Afrique importe l'essentiel de son alimentation et que la pauvreté extrême, elle est toujours là. En 2014, on comptait 420 millions de pauvres et il y a beaucoup d'Africains aussi qui souffrent de sous-alimentation et d'insécurité alimentaire. Et c'est pour cela que dans le cadre de FID Africa, parmi les 4 objectifs stratégiques, il y a 2 qui sont très importants sur lesquels je vais plus insister. C'est faire en sorte que l'Afrique soit un exportateur net de produits alimentaires et faire en sorte qu'on remonte le plus loin possible en termes de transformation le long des 18 chaînes de valeur pré-identifiées pour créer de la valeur ajoutée, créer de la richesse et créer de l'emploi. C'est pour cela que justement l'initiative de zone de transformation agro-industrielle a été lancée pour faire face à 4 problèmes très constatés. Le faible accès au marché de nos filières agricoles et de nos produits agricoles, parce que les standards ne sont pas atteints, parce qu'on a du mal à concurrencer les produits importés qui parfois sont subventionnés, mais parfois non. C'est tout simplement un problème de compétitivité qui se pose pour nos produits et une question, un problème clé qui est la non-transformation de nos produits agricoles. L'autre également élément très important qui est noté au niveau de l'Afrique, pourquoi on a une si grande importation de produits agricoles, c'est aussi le niveau d'investissement dans le secteur agricole est encore très faible. Les pays ont énormément investi et on n'a pas les résultats attendus parce que le principal créateur de richesse, c'est l'investissement privé. Il est limité, il est focalisé sur des produits parfois à haute valeur ajoutée. Pour mémoire, en Côte d'Ivoire, c'est à peine 16% de la production agricole qui est transformée de manière industrielle selon des normes acceptables. Le niveau d'accès aussi aux technologies et à l'innovation, évidemment, lorsqu'on a affaire à des petits producteurs, c'est assez difficile de faire en sorte que les plus importants standards soient respectés. L'accès enfin au financement, qui est problématique pour ce groupe d'acteurs, aussi bien les producteurs que tous les acteurs de la chaîne de valeur. C'est la raison pour laquelle cette initiative a été lancée dans le cadre de la banque. Elle nous semble être une tendance lourde. Il y a de plus en plus de pays qui s'intéressent à cette initiative. Nous avons au moins une trentaine de pays qui demandent et ont demandé que la banque les accompagne dans le processus. Et une zone de transformation agroalimentaire, c'est d'abord un cadre politique, réglementaire, institutionnel favorable à l'investissement privé. Ça va être surprenant de le dire, mais la question clé, il est très important de veiller à ce que cette politique soit adéquate pour attirer l'investissement privé, que ce soit le gros privé et le petit privé. Car dans ce schéma, c'est le secteur privé qui est vraiment le leader, alors que le gouvernement doit se recentrer sur son rôle de facilitateur, faire en sorte que les prérequis soient. Et les autres composantes clés de ce genre d'initiative, c'est évidemment l'attraction, faire en sorte que de gros privés puissent investir, mais également de petits privés. Les petits privés, je vais y revenir sur cela, en particulier les petites et moyennes entreprises. Il est extrêmement important, évidemment, de les accompagner en termes d'appui à l'accès aux services financiers, mais aussi non financiers. Et le financier peut passer aussi par, au niveau de la banque et d'institutions similaires, par la facilitation de l'accès aux ressources pour les banques commerciales, les fonds de garantie, les instruments de gestion de risque, Risk Sharing Facility, qui sont également des éléments très importants. Un autre élément extrêmement important, c'est, je pense, mon ami WAEL en a parlé, les infrastructures. Aucun investisseur d'envergure ne va investir dans une zone qui est dépourvue d'énergie, d'eau, de transport et d'ICT. Et c'est des éléments auxquels on veut particulièrement faire en sorte de relever les standards. Le standard également au plan opérationnel, au plan maintenance, il est important que aussi bien les zones de production que les zones de transformation industrielle, de packaging et de mise en marché, de marketing, soient aux normes au niveau international en termes de gestion de technologie, d'innovation et de compétitivité. Et que toute la chaîne de valeur soit traitée. Une zone de transformation agro-industrielle ne peut réussir que si l'ensemble de la chaîne de valeur et de leurs besoins est prise en charge. On veille à ce que chaque acteur joue son rôle et soit le plus performant. Et ça, là, je m'en vais juste présenter, disons, schématiquement une zone de transformation. Vous voyez à votre droite, ce qui est extrêmement important, c'est le parc agro-industriel, qui est la zone par excellence où l'État, à travers le projet de la banque et le projet d'institutions similaires, va mettre en place toutes les facilités en termes d'aménagement et d'infrastructures, voirie, réseaux divers, de l'eau de qualité, de l'énergie de qualité, souvent c'est au moins la moindre tension, des routes au standard, et un système d'assainissement et de traitement des eaux usées qui répondent aux standards, un système de traitement des déchets, y compris industriels, et puis toute l'architecture pour que l'ICT soit au top, et surtout qu'il y ait également un guichet unique, one-stop shop, qui est extrêmement important et aux normes. Et ce parc central devrait drainer justement en termes de flux de matières premières, l'essentiel de ces matières premières à partir des centres d'agrégation des services que vous voyez au centre, qui devraient être également en normes et faire en sorte d'agréger les produits venant des lieux de stockage primaires, de transformer même parfois, faire de la transformation primaire, alors que la transformation secondaire se passe au niveau du parc central, faire en sorte que toute la chaîne de valeur soit traitée en termes d'appui et d'assistance, y compris aux producteurs, et y compris sur les questions de conditionnement, faire en sorte que l'accès également au financement soit présent, que les banques soient présentes, et au niveau production agricole également, et si des besoins existent, ces besoins doivent être intégrés dans le cadre d'un schéma tel que celui-là, parce que si on n'aide pas les producteurs à se mettre à niveau, évidemment, aucun privé industriel ne va venir investir et surtout, il va chercher lui-même à investir dans la production, ce qui n'est pas l'objectif de chercher, même si c'est souhaitable qu'il le fasse évidemment pour également sécuriser son investissement. Et ce schéma est mis en œuvre à travers vraiment au plan opérationnel. Il est extrêmement important d'avoir aussi pour tous les acteurs tout ce qui est ICT et instruments pour faciliter les transactions, l'accès à l'information sur les marchés, sur les financements, sur les connaissances, sur les innovations, et l'accès aux services, y compris la mécanisation agricole, l'accès à la vulgarisation. Et ce qu'il faut dire que toute zone de transformation, une zone n'est acceptable et viable que si les filières ciblées sont suffisamment rentables. Ce qui suppose que dès le départ, une étude complète est faite qui commence par l'étude de marché. Une étude de marché en bonne et due forme pour identifier les filières qui ont potentiel de marché en termes de substitution aux produits d'importation et également pour l'export, faire en sorte que l'analyse des chaînes de valeur soit faite pour identifier les faiblesses et tout le schéma de supply chain, de chaîne d'approvisionnement identifié, faire en sorte qu'une fois que ceci est identifié, que les filières identifiées, les acteurs présents identifiés, c'est en ce moment maintenant qu'on déroule jusqu'à la base pour voir qu'est-ce qu'il faut mettre en place tout le long de la chaîne de valeur, y compris sur les questions d'agrégation de valeur ajoutée pour arriver à mettre en place de telles zones là où elles ont un avantage comparatif, là où on a un avantage comparatif, là où il y a faire en sorte que les bassins de production puissent être valorisés et que la zone de transformation puisse être localisée justement au sein de ces bassins et non pas dans les capitales, comme on le voit le plus souvent, des zones de transformation, des plateformes industrielles qui sont juste à côté des ports. Donc, je vous remercie de votre attention. Ça, c'est juste pour vous donner une idée, hein, le dernier diapo, des pays où nous sommes déjà présents, où les projets ont été approuvés. Un certain nombre de projets ont déjà été approuvés et sont en cours. Il y a d'autres qui sont en cours de préparation. Et il y a d'autres pays sur lesquels nous avons commencé à réfléchir, à travailler avec les différents gouvernements. Merci de votre attention.
Thank you so much, Mamadou. Thank you for the very informative presentation. The next session is going to be the Q&A. There have been some extremely good comments already in the chat box. The last question we got from Herbert Chinokoro is that they would really like to understand from the presenters how we are integrating the lessons from the evaluations. So I think as we're answering the questions, please keep that in mind. For the Q&A, I'm going to ask my colleague, Karen, to facilitate the Q&A, to be able to take this forward. So Karen, over to you, please, for Q&A, and then we will finally summarize. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Atsuko. And actually, the first question I think is to you. There was this question from Herbert, which you said that you would try to address.
Okay, thank you so much for putting me on the spot, Karen. Okay, basically everybody, while I'm going to try to answer this question, I think it's for all of us to think about in operations, how we make more clear we're taking these recommendations. And also, I'd really like to ask everybody to be thinking about questions, because this is a perfect platform. We have both the evaluation team and the operations team together, and to come forward with your questions. And then, so basically, Karen and the team, this was so helpful. What really happens many times is we don't have a conversation like Wambui was mentioning up front. So what we get is at the end, when we're already carrying out our own work, the evaluation team is somehow, not necessarily totally with us. So this is such a great example of how the water team with the BDEV evaluation could kind of integrate that. For us in agriculture, water irrigation is integral. Water management is integral to not only the special agro-industrial processing zones, but the irrigation projects that WAEL was mentioning about. And we'd really like to take those projects and share that with the team. He gave the list, but it's really about looking at more the specific details. And we would have another session to go further into the details of the specific projects. So I would just like to assure you that with regards to the area that we look at, which is irrigation special agro-industrial processing zones, this is extremely important. Thank you. Back to you, Karen.
Okay, thank you, Atsuko. So I see that Jonas has his hand up. Just before I give you the floor, Jonas, let me just read out the two questions that have come up in the Q&A. So there's a question from Rahel Ebba. How do you ensure balance between local demand and international market in feeding Africa? Is this an issue in your experience? So I guess this is a question from the colleagues from Agriculture Department. And then there's a question from Patrick Agboma, who wishes to refer to the ICT aspects that was in one of the slides. I think that was in Mamadou's presentation. So how is this linked or related to the digital agriculture flagship of AHAI, the Agriculture Department? So if some of our presenters could please think about those two questions. And I'll now give the floor to Jonas to put forward his question.
Okay. Hello.
Hello, Jonas.
Okay, good. Thanks a lot, Karen. I think the presentations have been very, very informative, and I really thank colleagues. But I just wanted to draw the attention on what Joseph Mouanda said on feasibility study to precede formulation of projects. And I was wondering if it is different from the feasibility section of the project appraisal reports that talk about financial and economic performance. The same section where you always have environmental and social impact assessment and gender. So, because I think that's exactly where we do all the financial internal rate of returns calculation and all those net present value and all those economic internal rate of returns calculation. And actually is an important section of the project appraisal report that tells you whether a project is feasible or not. That is number one. Number two is, you know, when I was in research and then during the time that this issue of sustainability came up, it was a very difficult concept for so many researchers to be able to define effectively. So you find out that there were so many definitions of that. And it lasted for a long time, starting from the early 80s towards the late 90s. But up till date, it is still a concept that people have not been able to effectively define. So the question that I have that is related to this is this thing called the theory of change. I like the idea, but I can tell you that many people in the bank, as of now, do not know what exactly that means. As a result, it will be very nice if our colleagues in IDEV are able to come up with something that defines what it is, so that people don't groom in darkness. I think it is very important. Another important question I have is related to the participatory process. All of these things were in the presentation of Joseph. You see, if I use a program like that has as one of its 4 principles that partnership and collaboration matter, and where we always say that we don't fence any collaborator or any partner as long as you have something that you want to contribute, because we recognize that the magnitude of what we are trying to do is huge and require a lot of people to contribute. And then in this kind of, we define so many participants, partners, depending on the compact value chain and all those kind of things, and bring all of them in. So, but Joseph was saying meaningful participatory approach. I don't understand what that means. Maybe he needs to throw some light on it. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, thank you, Jonas. Joseph, would you like to respond?
Okay, I will start with the question on feasibility study. You as an operation guy, you know better than me that for all operation, mainly for infrastructure project, the country used to prepare this kind of feasibility study. You always know that people used to say, I need a bankable project. What bankable project mean? I need something ready so I can put my money. Something ready means that you need to prepare a sound feasibility study. A lot of preparation work need to be done, not by the bank, but it is done generally by the country themselves. The bank can provide funding to help having this feasibility study done. This is why I put the link with African Water Facility, because it's one of the facilities we have can help preparing this kind of project. So it's not what we are doing during your preparation work, but it's something more complex done by country before starting a project. And in terms of theory of change, definitely, maybe people don't know exactly what theory of change means, but in everything we are doing, we have in our mind a kind of logic. I want to do this because I want to achieve this thing. We have this kind of logic, but this logic sometimes is just in our mind, and we didn't present it explicitly. And usually we directly focus on log frame. But as I did mention, for each project, we first want to identify the development problem. If you know the development problem, you now try to identify factors that will influence your goal. So there is a certain step you need to follow to develop this theory of change. The issue of context analysis, stakeholder analysis problem, it's not a new item. It's for a long time use. If you remember the ZOP, Almond ZOP approach, this kind of approach is used to develop this kind of theory of change. The problem is sometimes we ask people, mainly the operation guy, to prepare a project in a short period without giving them appropriate time to proceed with all necessary steps to identify where the project problem, because in water, for instance, water supply, is the development problem a lack of water or the prevalence of water-related disease? If you say the development project for water is lack of water, you will focus on water and will forget sanitation, will forget hygiene, and so. So it's important to better identify the development problem and try to find the solution. So maybe it's a part of, I don't know if it's a SNO who used to develop this log frame to include for staff some training on how to develop a clear theory of change. In our part as independent evaluation, we can assist you if you want to, for your strategy and something like this, we can assist you to develop your theory of change. And participatory approach. So it depends. It depends on project, and it depends also on context. But what we are saying here is just calling someone in a meeting, informing him that we are doing this project. Okay, you cannot say it's you have engaged this guy in the project. So the level of collaboration, it's very important if you want people to own the project, if you want people to maintain the activity you are preparing or the facility you are constructing. You need to take care of the level of engagement, not just informing him or because sometimes you just inform me, we have a project, we'll provide this, and he has just listening. And sometimes, and you will put in your report, oh, we made a substantial collaboration or consultation. So it's very important to very engage. This is why we say that the high level is empowerment, and the less is just this kind of meeting, focus group, and so and so. I will stop there.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph. Osward, I have two questions for you. So there was the earlier question or comment from Justus about the sanitation component not being given a high priority often, that under limited resources, clients prefer to have water projects and political leaders prefer to have something which the people want. And he's suggesting that as a way forward, we should have a percentage for each water project budget, which goes to sanitation. And that we should also put more effort into enhancing awareness, explaining the importance of sanitation, which of course is now being very much put forward in the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's one question on sanitation. Then there is an invitation from Archie to elaborate a bit more about to what extent the lessons learned under the water evaluation have been incorporated into the water and sanitation policy and strategy document. So those are two questions for you, Osward. After that, I'll give the floor to Ahmed, who would like to say something about nutrition. So over to you first, Osward, and then Ahmed.
Thank you very much for those very good questions. And sanitation indeed has been for a long time a major challenge in many of the countries. If you just take a quick look at the countries, say here in West Africa, you will find that they have very good, in a number of countries, good water systems operating. But then when you ask what is happening to the wastewater that is generated, where is this water going, you know, most of the times it's just dumped into the sea. But of course, things are catching up because of pollution, things are catching up because of the deteriorating environment. So what are we doing? How are we making a difference? One of the things that we have done over the recent past is that whenever there is a request from a country for a water project, we do insist that they look at the sanitation side of it. And just by making a very simple analog on what happens. For example, I mean, a country wants water to bring in maybe 40,000 cubic meters a day in a city. So you just ask and say, okay, what happens to that water when it's been used, when it's been flushed down the toilet? What is going to happen to it? You know, you are bringing a problem to the city by just focusing on the water supply. You need to look at the whole cycle. And so it's very rare now to find any water project financed by the bank that does not have a sanitation component, because we do engage in that policy dialogue and insist that we have sanitation included as we've not been dogmatic about the percentages, but we just ensure that to a large extent the water sanitation side of it, the treatment, in certain cases even reuse is considered and is used. And one other element, sanitation is a business. Sanitation, there are resources that you get out of it. Colleagues in agriculture know that the solids are very good for stabilizing the soil structure. You know, the water, once it's treated, is rich in nutrients, very good for agriculture. You know, and you can also generate energy from treating wastewater. So we bring all these values, all these important points to the clients who are the RMCs, and quite often there has been good buy-in. Now, in terms of elaborating of the policy, how have we taken into account the recommendations from the IDEV or BDEV evaluation? You realize that the preparation of the water policy started as far back as 2015. And immediately the draft report of the BDEV was presented. we were advised that we could not proceed with the preparation of the policy until after the evaluation, the water sector evaluation report was cleared. And this was important because that has given us an opportunity to build into the policy, in the strategy that we are developing now, the recommendations that have come out of the IDEV evaluation. So it is very incorporated both in the policy as well as in the strategy that we are working on. We still have opportunity to develop that further. So there is a lot of uptake of the recommendations from IDEV into the two documents that are very key in how the sector is managed in the back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Osward.
Karen,
yes, Joseph.
I just want to add that IDEV had also the chance to provide comment on the policy and the strategy, making sure that lesson and the recommendation are included in the policy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Joseph. Ahmed, you have the floor.
Yes, Karen, thanks for giving me the floor. I want to join colleagues in applauding the panelists for sharing those interesting lessons, key lessons, as well as to IDEV for formulating the learning materials. My comment is about nutrition. I noticed that in the key lessons on the 4th page, I think the last page, there was, the key lesson there for me was nutrition and well-being. For someone who deals with fisheries and fish as food, knowing that fish is a superfood, I think my colleagues in livestock and horticulture will also join me to say that nutrition has to be designed in the project. It cannot be an add-on. When you think of all the water resources available in irrigation programs, one can see the value of having fish farms, having horticulture, having integrated polysystems where you may have livestock and small ruminants within those project design. We are not seeing too many of those, and it is not surprising to see nutrition coming in as one of the key areas that is really low on those scale. But also recognizing that the continent is the most malnourished and that we have a multi-sectorial nutrition plan, and we also have the Africa Leaders for Nutrition program. I think we should do better at this. I want to give 2 or 3 examples of what we've been doing that probably could be a lesson. In the PDAC program, my colleague Gaba has designed fish passages and fish breeding programs in Guinea, in the highlands, to make sure that the water resource component makes use of fish for food and fish for jobs, especially for women SMEs. In Burundi, my other colleague, Yusuf, has done a fantastic job of including fish and livestock with crops to make sure that that sort of tailors towards nutrition smart investment. And we are also doing something similar in Malawi, where we're developing aqua parks for large-scale commercial farmers to make use of these in terms of increasing fisheries as food, especially protein-based food. So I think moving forward, we may want to rethink our composition of our project team. We need to include nutritionists or nutrition experts, as well as make sure that we have inclusive financing for women entrepreneurs who are mostly working within this value chain. Sometimes we do have fish, but the post-harvest loss is high. And we also need to think about climate services, not just within the complex, having team members across the complex, but also having team members beyond the complex to take advantage of private-public partnership, as my colleagues have mentioned earlier, but also climate services, early warning signal. These are key in terms of food security, but also key in terms of planning. The final point is that most of the infrastructures that have been designed do not have an ecosystem component. It lacks at that level of tolerance or allowance for fish habitats, for instance, or for polyculture systems. And I think having some of these in our design as we move forward will help to deal with the nutrition challenge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ahmed. I see that Francis Bourguer has his hand up, and there's a comment from Cecil Nundwe. But before I come to those two, I just want to ask Girma whether he has anything to add on the nutrition focus of our irrigation evaluation in Malawi.
Thank you very much, Karen. This is really an important point, and thank you, Ahmed, for bringing this out also. I think actually you spoke to the fact that nutrition is an important area that we should consider, and you basically strengthen our finding on these areas from your experiences. So in Malawi impact evaluation, we also try to capture the impact of irrigation on the child nutrition, as well, in addition to other impact factor. For example, food. We measured food security, poverty, child nutrition, and as well as health of the household, of course. But particularly for you see the nutrition, usually our strategies at the end to improve nutrition and to reduce poverty in RMCs. So in our finding, we try to measure these indicators through really child like stunting, where we took the height as well as the weight of the children in a very professional and very clinical ways, where during the data collection we had professionals who were trained on this, how to measure these facts. So our finding is really based on very concrete approaches. So I think you brought very good issues here, where it is important for projects to include all other aspects, not only irrigation or training, other things, but so if we want to improve nutrition for the child, particularly, we have to bring in other components, which we believe require, other analytical work, how we can really improve child nutrition. We have, for example, food in the household, let's say, can be different vegetable, we have fish and so on. Do really children get it to reflect into their nutritional status? So we have to study further the cultural background, the societal interaction, and the attention given to children in the context to further really identify where the areas that can help us to maximize the impact, particularly on the children. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Girma. Cecil mainly has a comment or a suggestion for the management of the bank, which is on the importance of the social sector for the advancement of the development agenda. He finds that the attention for the social sector is still limited in a number of projects, and finds that social needs should be better embedded in development project design, including issues of ownership, land ownership, property ownership. And he advises to look at institutional models that start with the creation of development corporations and cooperatives, which could then be involved into PPP arrangements over time. So thank you for that suggestion, Cecil. As I said, I see Francis Bouguer having his hand up, so I'm going to give him the floor to put his question. Please go ahead, Francis.
Yeah. Thank you. You are hearing me?
Yes, we hear you.
Thank you. Merci pour toutes les présentations faites. Et je voudrais simplement, au regard des leçons qui ont été tirées et du fait que l'eau l'eau est un intrant très important pour l'agriculture, et je voudrais suggérer aussi, comme a dit celui qui a parlé de la pêche, qu'il soit désormais incorporé dans tout établissement de projet, dans toute instruction de projet d'agriculture et notamment d'irrigation, une composante sur la gestion des ressources en eau. Et parce que la gestion des ressources en eau est un élément très important pour la mobilisation l'utilisation efficiente et durable de l'eau par l'agriculture. Et comme l'avait dit Wamouyi, parce que l'agriculture est un gros utilisateur de l'eau et aussi un gros polluteur, n'est-ce pas, de l'eau. Et donc, l'addition systématique d'une composante gestion des ressources en eau dans tout projet d'agriculture serait de nature à solidifier ce projet, à créer les conditions, n'est-ce pas, de son efficience durable et à créer les conditions d'une collaboration étroite avec le département de l'eau et de l'assainissement de la banque. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Francis. Okay, colleagues, I think we're going to bring this event to a close. Thank you all very much for your attention, for being with us. I thought it was a very interesting event. I certainly myself have learned a lot. I thought it was good to hear from Osward on how AHWS is addressing our evaluation recommendations with concrete actions that are being reported on. We also learned from WAEL about the context of agriculture in Africa, the trends, the AFDB's response. We learned from MAMADOU on the key components for a successful agro-industrial processing zones programs and the importance of soft infrastructure. So I think we've covered a lot of ground, and thank you very much for your questions and your engagement. So I just want to thank the AHWS, the AHAI, and the AHFR teams for the good collaboration in preparing this event. And of course, I want to thank the whole IDEV team who worked on this event. And I want to thank you, participants, for your engagement, for your comments, and for your questions. So this was basically just an overview event. We do intend to follow up with more targeted outreach at the regional level, for example, by making presentations to regional management teams. We're glad to hear that you find the lessons and recommendations coming out of our evaluations useful. So we will be trying to reach out more and better to you. As Wambui said, the process of engagement is very important. And so we will be making more efforts on that side. And so we welcome any suggestions you may have for other opportunities to collaborate on knowledge exchange, because it's not just a one-way street. There should be a full exchange between the evaluation and the operations teams. I see a question from Archie. Where can we send further questions? I think it depends on the topic. If you have questions, for example, for Joseph, you can send them directly to him. For Girma, you can send to him. Or if you like, you can send them to me and I can try and pass them on to the right person. So thank you, Archie. There is indeed an opportunity to ask further questions. So finally, since we want to make these learning events as useful as possible for the participants, I'd like to ask you to fill in the feedback form, the link to which will now appear in the chat box. So please do let us know what you thought was good and what can be improved for the next time. Mark, are you putting the links ready? Yes, there we go. So the links are appearing in the chat box to the evaluation form. Please do take a couple of minutes to fill it in, available in both English and in French. So a happy holiday tomorrow and a good weekend. Thank you.